The election is over, and obviously not the results that anybody wanted. It's okay to reflect on what happened, but there is simply no time to look back right now. What is important that we here at the Midas Touch Network, that this community is on the front lines of resisting fascism, of resisting authoritarianism, of calling out the Trump administration and all of his lackeys at each and every turn, and to make sure our voices are heard, our institutions remain strong. And that is our commitment to you. We are going nowhere, and we will be here to protect our fundamental rights, your fundamental rights, and we will not stop. We will continue on with our mission together. Let's call in Brett and Jordy right now. Brett, Jordy, good to see you here. Not the episode that I wanted to have. I did not want to be in resistance mode. I wanted to be in let's build upon accomplishments mode. But here we are. These are the cards that are now dealt, and we have no choice but to reflect on what happened, what can improve, and how we move forward together. And that's what we are going to do here. We've seen the importance, I think, of and the power of the media, of corporate media sane washing and both sidesing everything, of investments, massive investments on the right wing in digital media platforms that worked on Gen Z and worked on certain communities to try to influence their voting behavior and shift voting behavior. But here we are. We here at the Midas Touch Network, this is not a network of the blame game or wagging our fingers. We have to learn the lessons and we have to grow. Brett and Jordy, how are you doing? Obviously not ideal, but good to see you both. And good to be here with all the Midas Mighty.
Not ideal is one way to put it. You know, these last few days have been tough, and I know it's been tough on all of you out there as well. And we share in those feelings. You know, in the past few days, I've raged, I've shed tears. It's been hard. It's been difficult, but you know what? I've picked myself back up, and I'm ready to get back in the ring and make sure that we're doing everything possible. And what we need to do now is we need to rebuild this network, rebuild this community into the strongest force possible to confront the issues that we are going to face. We've identified the threats here over and over and over again. We have spread this message far and wide, but not far enough. And now we actually have to confront those threats head on. And so our mission from here on out is to confront that, is to actively serve as a resistance where these policies go in the bad directions that we expect them to go. And we are going to be a check on power. We are going to be unapologetic. And that is our promise. And by the way, I totally get those people who are like, I can't take it anymore. I need to take a rest. I totally understand. But whether you're taking a break now or whether you're taking a break tomorrow, or if you already took a few days and you're back in action, we will always be here for you, ready to fight by your side. That is our mission. That is our promise to you. Jordy, what's new?
Brett said it perfectly. Ben said it perfectly. We are not going anywhere. We love this community too much. We love this country too much. And right now, this community is genuinely that. It is the best pro-democracy community out there. And so to Brett's point exactly, I understand if you need a week, if you need a day, if you need a month, if you need a couple, we're going to be here for you no matter what, because we love this country and this community too much to ever back away. Ben.
You know, look, we've already heard Donald Trump and the campaign people and his surrogates right now. I mean, they're still talking about deportations. Caroline Leavitt talked about mass deportation. She was Donald Trump's spokesperson. Byron Donalds talked about these deportations, which Donald Trump said was going to be bloody. I mean, we're already seeing certain companies here saying that they will be pricing in Donald Trump's disastrous tariffs into their manufacturing process and into their kind of import cadence. Donald Trump's made a lot of promises, including, I call them lies, he calls them promises. He said that the Ukraine war would be solved on day one, even before he took office, if he was elected. That war is still taking place today. He's made promises to everybody and lied to everybody, whether he was saying no tax on tips, no tax on this, no tax on that, no taxes in general. It was the Pied Piper of lying, going from community to community, lying, utilizing quite literally billions of dollars from billionaires through political action committees, which was, if you want to think about the genesis and origin of this, right? This was over a decade in the making with the Citizens United case, which allowed all of this political action money to have no limits at all. And now we see what their vision was back then. But if you think about Fox, if you think about the Federalist Society, Leonard Leo's agenda, the late Roger Ailes' agenda with Fox, these things started in the 70s. And there was a different vision of America than the American dream that I think people loved. And they were pushing it there and kind of in the shadows, growing their influence on the courts with the Federalist Society, in the media with Fox. I think we've seen in recent years, of course, billionaire oligarchs buying out all the media. It's not liberal media anymore. It's all kind of right-wing media to different degrees and variances. So there needs to be a check on that too. With pro-democracy media, people-powered media, that's funded, here at the grassroots and built at the grassroots. So that's what we're building. It's what we're going to continue to build. And again, any type of fascist encroachment, any single day, we will make videos on it. We will call it out each and every day.
And Ben, I think it's interesting that the conversation has so quickly shifted to speak about the media landscape, which is something we've been sounding the alarm on, I don't know, the entire existence of this network, which is us saying, listen, this is where we're at. We have the corporate media, which sane-washes Donald Trump and has criticized President Biden and Kamala Harris, the entire administration, every single step of the way. So you have information getting out that way. Then you have the right-wing MAGA media, whether it's Fox or Newsmax or OAN, whatever it is, which is pumping out pure propaganda. And then you have all of these right-wing podcasts and this whole digital network that the right wing has built up thanks to billions and billions and billions of dollars. So our question this entire time has been, where's the investment in digital media from all of these people who want to actually have an outsized voice in this current environment? Why are they ignoring this space? And we're like, hello, we've been doing it. Guess what? We have 6 billion views on the Midas Touch Network, 1 billion in the past 90 days alone. And we need to keep that momentum going. We need to expand this platform and other pro-democracy platforms as well and build out this ecosystem into something that is truly special. And I'm happy that finally the consultant class and whoever you want to call it was like, oh, maybe we should have paid attention to this whole new growing medium that's out there. Well, welcome to the party. I'm not going to go on much more about this and criticize you for it, but welcome. We're here. Let's do this. Let's build up a media empire of pro-democracy that actually gets out the truth, that actually speaks to the issues on people's mind unapologetically, without the sane washing, without the BS. That's what we got to do.
One of the things that I see people doing now, which we're not going to do here, is blame this group or pit this group against that group. That's just not, I don't think that's a productive exercise to, oh, it's their fault, it's your fault. I'm not sure that's a productive exercise. I think, though, that the one that perhaps pisses me off the most, though, are people who are, it's my perspective, and Brett and Jordy, you can disagree, the people who are out there attacking President Biden and saying this was Biden's fault. We had to dig out of Biden this, Biden that, it's Biden's fault. Let's be very clear. Biden is overseeing objectively some of the best data in the history. It's objective. It's not debatable points when you look at certain kind of key metrics, because the metrics are the metrics. They're the stats. That America's GDP is the best in the world. That America's stock market set records after records after records. That the Infrastructure Act built over 40,000 infrastructure projects. That unemployment, which is often a metric that if it goes very high, will take down presidents. Our unemployment is at kind of historic low levels, and unemployment levels have been kind of consistently month over month, kind of was like a record stretch of low unemployment. Wages are up. Manufacturing boom. There's never been more oil being produced for all of the drill baby drill, crowd. I mean, those are just the objective data. And the bad piece of data, of course, which you don't ignore, was that inflation was high. And I say was high because objectively, inflation through actual things like the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Act went down, and went down faster than any other kind of G7 nation or any other nation in the world. And our inflation got brought down to reasonable levels and now, under control at like 2.2%, not 0% inflation, but wages growing more than what the percentage of inflation is out right now. So people have more disposable income just objectively than what the inflation was. But
I mean, 2% is the Fed target, right? That's in a normal, healthy economy. You have 2% inflation, and we are just about there right now. And so, from the perspective of good governance, what you always want to, and good governance is different, of course, than electoral politics, and it's different than what folks feel. But from a good governance perspective, if you inherit an economy in disaster, in crisis, in chaos, from somebody who left with the worst jobs record since Herbert Hoover, with a global economy as well in shambles due to COVID-19, and you come in and it continues to spike, and then you get it under control and bring it down to the target levels and do it better than any country in the entire world. I mean, to me, that's a big deal. Sorry to interrupt.
No, but look, so what we're both talking about ultimately, where the failure was, because we have to acknowledge what the failures are, and the failure is, I think the failure within, if you will, in the sense of messaging it, explaining these things, letting the American people reflect on what a disaster it was in COVID and how President Biden literally inherited the worst economy. Though there was no peaceful transition, there was no real transition normalcy at all, where agencies talk to the incoming agency. None of that happened. There was January 6th, and President Biden inherited a freaking mess. And at all stages, what the GOP and MAGA particularly did very well. They were on message every day, kind of just attack every issue, no matter what it was. Train derailment in East Palestine, a coordinated effort online to try to do a run on banks, natural disasters, you name it. Republicans were on message every day. Number one, promoting Trump every single day after the insurrection, no matter what he did, no matter what he said. They were on message all the time. And then they were on message, dividing the country, turning everything into a wedge issue, relentless, over and over and over again over the course of that 3.5-4 year period. Now, we know that when the Democratic Party, is motivated to do something, they can do a pretty good job messaging, because they sure as hell did a great job messaging, attacking President Biden and continuing to attack him, who was a successful incumbent president, versus spending the time, I think, methodically, to explain to the American people what was happening, and that actually these metrics were good things. I mean, if you talk about
you don't think it was helpful to just attack your own incumbent successful president over and over and over? And interesting.
And attacking him for things that we now know post-election that voters, clearly don't mind. I mean, age, right? That didn't matter when it came to Trump. The ability to put coherent sentences together. I mean, the reality is President Biden was able to do that. He did a good job. He stuttered occasionally and was slower on his feet. But Donald Trump's talking about eating cats and dogs. He's doing like simulating oral sex on microphones. I mean, he's out there cognitively glitching at each and every speech. But, his people rallied behind him. And while they attacked Biden with those physical things and tried to be like, that's a weakness and that's a this, Democrats, a lot of the kind of Democrat consultant class, as you referred to them, Brett, they like joined in to bring down someone who was actually doing, a very
not even Democrats, Republicans who align themselves with Democrats who somehow got control of the Democratic messaging. I mean, we have to be, as a pro-democracy community, just really cognizant going forward about who we let into our circles, because really a lot of the uproar came from within. And it was disgusting to see at the time. It was called out at the time, but now here we are again. And these people kind of continue to skate by, and they know who they are.
Well, and I want to be clear, though. I want to be clear as well, and just say this: Vice President Harris, I think, ran a fantastic campaign.
Yes,
I think she did terrific, and I want to commend her and her entire team because they did an unbelievable job, and they were facing incredible headwinds, including just these economic headwinds that are literally a global thing. And despite the fact that the United States was literally number one in the economy, and if you look at that, you should be like, oh, well, handling it the best in the world should probably get you something. Things like inflation and stuff have been a global issue that have ousted incumbent administrations now across the world, like 100% of the time. So we have to acknowledge that. But I want to commend Vice President Harris on her campaign. Is there things that I believe that she could have done better? Yeah. Can we Monday morning quarterback? Of course we could do that. And I don't necessarily want to turn this episode entirely into a post-mort, but I guess if one's going to be one, it's going to be this one. But we could get into that more as well. But I want to say she did a great job, and certainly, not a good strategy to attack your own president and lend legitimacy to these arguments on the other side that were quite frankly garbage. Just about all of them. Sorry, Ben.
Well, it got to the point where Vice President Kamala Harris was stuck between a rock and a hard place when she's asked a question about the economy, right? If she were to say, hey, actually the Biden economy is doing pretty good right now, when you look at all of the objective criteria, even if she did a slight variation of that, because Biden's economy and Bidenomics and his infrastructure got literally almost no support from, as you say, the consultant class, and all it was attacked. By the time she took over, and was running her campaign and she was at the top of the ticket, you couldn't possibly now kind of restructure it to be like, actually,
the CHIPS Act was an amazing thing. Actually, the Infrastructure Act, really big deal. Actually, the Inflation Reduction, and she's, she certainly, said variations of, the economy is getting better, but there's more to do. But frankly, here's one of the issues, and this is, I guess you could call it a messaging issue or messenger issue, maybe. But here's the thing. Democrats take nuanced positions because life is nuanced, right? I mean, issues are complicated. And there's multiple sides to every issue. So if you're asked about the economy and you're like, it's gotten better, but there's more to do because we could do. And then the other side is using a sledgehammer on every issue, right? A sledgehammer going, build the wall, bomb them all, worst economy ever, and just hammering those one-line messages over and over and over again. And you're like, well, in fact, if you look at the analytics by Moody's and you look at the this and the that, and while it is heading in this direction, experts say, you've lost so much of the country at that point.
Chiseling your talking points instead
and by the way,
them home.
And by the way, it's exactly why Democrats are better at governing, right? Because they understand the nuance of these issues. But you have to figure out a way as well to send that to people. And like I said, I want to be emphatic about this because I think Vice President Harris ran an amazing campaign and probably couldn't have done much better. But there was, certain opportunities, for example, and I'm not saying this would have changed the election because, like I said, apparently there were these headwinds that were not being picked up by any of this data as well. And there was a sentiment out there, a very pro-Trump sentiment across America that we have to confront. and we really got to deal with. But I remember distinctly there was a moment, during one of the debates where I think it was a debate or maybe the town hall, whatever it was, Vice President Harris was asked about the economy, and her answer came from a place of the economy is bad, and this is what we're going to do to dig us out of this bad economy. What I wish answers like that were, and what the messaging was, is like, listen, we inherited this disaster from Donald Trump. I remember Obama saying this when he ran, right? When he ran for re-election, right? We inherited the worst economy since the Great Depression. I spent the past 4 years building it back. And now our country is the best in the world. Can we do more? Yes. But our country is number one. And I'm going to do X, Y, and Z in order to continue to improve it and continue to keep us as a global leader and ease prices up. Don't get me wrong. They did a version of that. But it wasn't they didn't offer that much of a defense of our current state, because I think I've been talked to, people have messaged me who are like, the think tank people, and say, here, we've learned that this messaging moves voters 2 or 3 points to the right, 0.3. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't need to hear it. It's always BS. I'm never going to listen to, or hear any of that data ever again. But the things people would say would be like, are you sure you want to say the economy's good? Because you're going to offend a lot of people who don't feel like it's good. And you don't want to piss off that group. And If you're not going to fight for your values, who the heck is going to fight for your values? If you're not going to defend your record, who is going to defend your record? All you've done is you've now created a vacuum where Donald Trump comes in and he goes, this is the worst economy ever. We're in a depression. We're in a depression. You have CNN going, we're in a depression. And not we're in a depression, but you have CNN going, uneasiness about the economy, blah, blah, blah. And then people just obviously internalize all that because there's no counter message to that saying, you know what, actually things are like pretty good. Like, could things be better? Or were egg prices too high last year when we had the bird flu? Could we pull this down? Is inflation still affecting us all? Are times still difficult for people? Sure. But we have to acknowledge those fundamental facts that things are actually pretty damn good. And we should be proud of that, because for sure, and mark my words, save this episode, bookmark it. That day one Donald Trump takes office, you know what he's going to say? This is the best economy anyone has ever seen in the entire world. This is the best. Look at the low interest rates from the Fed. I did that. Look at the roaring stock market. I did that. It's the same thing he did the first administration when he inherited Barack Obama's economy. So he could keep that going until he starts implementing his policies and crashes things. But here's the thing. He's going to do that. And all those CNNs and Politicos and all those people, they're going to go, this is a great economy. This is the best. They're going to go right along with it. And damn well they're going to go right along with it. And they're not going to acknowledge that the reason for that economy is because of President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris.
Well, A, B, C, always be campaigning, not just for an election, always be campaigning, right? For 3.5 years, Donald Trump was campaigning and running against Biden when Biden wasn't running. Biden was running a country. He wasn't running for re-election. And so when the campaign geared off, the framing of the campaigns were already kind of set based on someone who was always in a campaign mode. One of the things Obama did well is Obama messaged well. He's a great messenger. So Obama was out there each and every day. And he was, to your point, Brett, reminding people, remember, we inherited a depression or a recession. Remember that. Every day that message got out. And I think that there was a void and a vacuum that was, left. And I think President Biden was very focused on, being a gentleman. And, I think he thought the rules of engagement, or sometimes the rules of engagement, were maybe what it was, 30 years ago or 40 years ago or 20 years ago. But every day there was a campaign being run against him, and he was focused on we the people, not I, Joe Biden, and my reelection. And there has to be, I think, a hybrid of both, and I think that for right now to go after Biden and to say, he's the one who did this, or he's whatever. Look, he beat Donald Trump. Okay. Like, let's be undisputed fact. He whooped Trump's ass in 2020. He got 81 million votes. So whatever the coalition Biden built And again, I'm not saying what would have happened here or what would have happened there. It's an unproductive exercise.
And by the way, Ben, I want to say this too, to add to that, you know, I'm going to say this in multiple ways. I won't, this isn't a complete and total sea change. This isn't a complete and total shift in that every 2 years things change, right? President Biden won in 2020. In 2022, there was supposed to be this red wave. It never materialized. In 2024, this red wave, by all accounts, it is a red wave in 2024. We got to be honest about that. But if you remember when Donald Trump was elected in 2016, what happened in 2018? The Democrats took control of Congress in a sweep because people were pissed off about Donald Trump. So this country swings on a pendulum. And so if we get our butts out there and we are actually doing the work and messaging and figuring out how to form these coalitions and actually just being direct with people, no bullshit, and are working this and exposing all this, there's no reason why you can't have the same sort of pro-democracy sweep in a couple of years. And the reason why I prefaced it with what I did, that all, assumes a free and fair election process going forward. And that's something that is a separate concern that is entirely warranted about what is Donald Trump actually going to do when he controls the levers of the federal government. But, that's why we need to ensure that we are lighting a fire under the people who are in government now, the various judges, lawyers around the country, because this is going to take a huge coalition of people, of lawyers, of politicians, of activists, of Midas Mighty, of everybody to come together and make sure that all the horrific things that he wants to do are stopped in their tracks.
Couldn't agree more with you. Let's take our first quick ad break of the day. Before showing you the ad break, I just want to remind you too, we have zero outside investors. So in this pro-democracy movement, we are people-funded, people-powered, and the ads go a long way to help. So I understand sometimes maybe people would love an ad-free experience, but these are sponsors who have stood with our pro-democracy content. And I want to give you at least the context between why we have these ads. These are products and things that we use, and they help fund this network. And I think that's very important right now when we're going against Fox, which is funded by $14.96 billion. We'll be right back.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere in between the store and your first month's bill, that price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about those gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say goodbye to jaw-dropping monthly bills and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. And with all plans, you'll get high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and number along with all your contacts. No need for a pricey new device or a complicated setup. I've been stuck with these unexpected fees and overcharges from other providers, so it's refreshing to finally have a straightforward plan just like this. To get this new customer offer and your 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Midas. That's mintmobile.com/Midas. MEIDAS. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Midas. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. That's why I love it. All you have to do is you breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on in your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. Because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, Optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, etc. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health. It can also track your cycle as well as the onset of menopause and adjust your recommendations to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts so you can keep up your energy and stave off cravings. Look, I love Lumen and I know you will too. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to Lumen, lumen.me/Midas to get 15% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/Midas for 15% off your purchase. One more time, go to lumen.me/Midas, lumen.me/Midas, and get 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode.
Even if you think it's a bit overhyped, AI is suddenly everywhere, from self-driving cars to molecular medicine to business efficiency. If it's not in your industry yet, it's coming, and fast. But AI, it needs a lot of speed and computing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a blazing fast and secure platform for your infrastructure, database application development, plus all your AI and machine learning workloads. OCI costs 50% less for compute and 80% less for networking, so you're saving a pile of money. Thousands of businesses have already upgraded to OCI, including MGM Resorts, Specialized Bikes, and Fireworks AI. Right now, Oracle is offering to cut your current cloud bill in half if you move to OCI for new U.S. customers with minimum financial commitment. The offer ends 12/31/24. See if your company qualifies for this special offer at oracle.com/Midas. That's oracle.com/Midas. Shout out to our pro-democracy sponsors. Links in description of both YouTube and audio. Click the links. Let them know we sent you. Benji.
You know, as we said, Brett, you said, like, look, sometimes the Democrats are so in the weeds on the details and the plans that we forget sometimes for voters. Sometimes it's just a very kind of simple message. Like I saw that there were voters who, and this was like a trend, just Googling whether or not President Biden was still on the ballot or not. Like they were literally searching.
Yeah, it was like one of the biggest Google trends the day of the election was like, where's President Biden's name on the ballot? Like people get so in the weeds and we're obviously so informed about things that to us, that's unfathomable, right? Like how in the world could you not know that all of this happened? But there are a large chunk of voters who genuinely do. And when you see the ballot and you're looking for names, I guess there's it's an indictment of our education system, but we got to acknowledge the reality.
And we have to recognize, though, whether it's an indictment or not indictment of the education system, that there are voters out there that are getting information from certain sources that are skewing or persuading their understanding of things, the biggest of which we know is Fox, which is a $15 billion, ship. What was Death Star? I was looking for the term, that projects all of, every single day with the chyrons. Like if you're a Fox News watcher and they reach so many people, you've been trained over decades. And now your kids are, if you're the Gen X, your Gen Z kids have been trained to literally view Democrats as an enemy from within. It's probably how Donald Trump even, often uses that. That's how they've portrayed it now for 30 years. Every chyron. When Vice President Kamala Harris was giving a speech that if you wanted to criticize it, it was too full of hope and optimism. It was all about like, let's unite, let's love, let's be loved, like, let's hope, let's unite, let's do things great, let's build in the future. Not using she didn't say Donald Trump's name once in like the closing 72 hours or whatever. It didn't matter because the Fox chyron said, Vice President Kamala Harris, a message of hate. And the other chyron would say, Vice President Kamala Harris is running a campaign based on fascism. Like it would say that on the chyron. Fox would literally assemble fake town halls of Trump supporters who, like Kim Jong-un, North Korea, like we would see those things and we would call them out. We were doing our best each and every day. But the message that it sends to people, like this voter from Allegheny County, Deborah Jemorowski, I mean, she's asked. So she was a Biden voter in 2020, and she's asked why she voted for Donald Trump in 2024. And her response was one word. It was biblical. I'm making a biblical vote. Here, play this clip.
I voted for Donald Trump, and the reason I voted for him is because of his biblical values. I wanted to vote biblical. I want to vote for a candidate most closely aligns with the Bible. Just everything that's been going on, the economy, inflation, immigration at the border.
She's literally just saying words there, and they're just the kind of right-wing talking points. Biblical, immigration, inflation. Ironically, when you look at the shirt that she's wearing, it's a roofing company that will likely be adversely impacted by tariffs depending on where they get their supplies. So she says inflation. If there was a way to reach out to her, or a voter like this, and say, hey, I'm not sure if you're wearing that shirt because you work at that company or someone in your family works at that company, but like you do realize that you're going to be screwed with these plans, right? Like you realize that inflation's under control, but a $2,000 tariff could mean a $2,000 increase on your taxes, or a 2,000% increase in those supplies in order to counteract the tariff and what that means. So you have to realize, like, how do you reach that voter? Look, 75,000 voters, instead of writing the name of a president, did a write-in for the name Haktua, which is a reference to oral sex by, a lady who went viral on TikTok, who now has a podcast called Talk Tua. 75,000 counted votes. People wrote Haktua, and as a result, their reproductive rights and freedoms are likely to be kind of taken away because of.
As a result, you may not be able to Haktua.
Well, look, but I think it is important, that Democrats do realize that obviously a podcast like Talk Tua or whatever has significant influence, and to engage people in audiences where they're watching certain things. And I know, Democrats in the pro-democracy movement, may not want to move in certain of those spaces. Well, then, okay. But then we got to build our own spaces. I think Democrats more frequently, I remember, Brett, for the past 4 years when we were building this platform for over, 4 years, one of the reasons also, for not having outside investors is, one, we pursued our own path. But number two, it's not even something that Democrats look at. Like there's no even market for let's help build pro-democracy podcasts.
Not just like this.
By the way, I just want to make it clear. We're not even going after the Talk to a podcast. That's fine.
Yeah.
Let that, we're just saying it's a larger indictment of the vacuum in the medium in general, that 75,000 people voted Talk to or whatever, instead of voting for a candidate, because of that total closing my eyes to this digital medium.
It's a good point. And you also got to, I would assume, and I haven't read that articles, and I don't know if they have the data on this, but I would assume that most of those 75,000 were also like Gen Zers,
right?
Would be my guess. And then this is something you've certainly been sounding the alarm on for a while, and something we've talked about a lot on the show. And the reason we've talked a lot about on the show is because we got some Gen Z folks on the staff who have been warning us about this now for the past few years. And they've been saying, there's an infiltration happening right now with my generation, because all they're listening to is they're listening to Rogan, and they're listening to, these comedians who, and by the way, a lot of these shows are apolitical shows, a lot of them, which they have politicians on, but they have certain framing and stuff. And then they're also visited often by guests who are from the Republican Party. And then they get exposed to these ideas. So it's like, oh, this is my favorite comedian. I love, he's unfiltered. He's politically incorrect. I love, this dude's awesome. Next thing you know, you got JD Vance going on the podcast. And I've had, friends, people, my best friends, like, listen to all these shows personally. And even they made comments to me saying, and they're smart enough. They weren't brainwashed by it or anything, but they were like, you know what? Like JD Vance actually came off pretty good on the, when he was on with Theo Vaughn. Like I listened to that episode and, and I think it countered a lot of kind of the perceptions out there about him. And I've heard that from multiple people that when these people went on these shows, it gave a perspective into these individuals because they're speaking sometimes for an hour, sometimes for like 3.5 hours, unfiltered on a podcast, and with a figure who they trust as an arbiter of here's what I'm into. And that affects people. I mean, it's a very intimate experience. I'm sure you all know because you're listening to us here, that listening to a podcast, watching a show, people you like, it's a very shared, intimate experience.
Yes.
In many ways. And then when you're engaged in that experience, and then you're gradually pulled into, oh, Donald Trump came on to Joe Rogan, Donald Trump came on to this podcast, JD Vance is speaking with this guy for a while. That's why our staff was like, a lot of especially the guys who I'm friends with, they're all listening to this stuff and they've been kind of brainwashed into thinking, it's lame to be, support Kamala. It's lame to support a Democrat. And by the way, they also said, you know what, you put the values, the policies, you put all of that in front of them in a blind test. And you said, which of these do you prefer? What are they going to choose every single time? They're going to choose every single time those values, like the Democratic values. They actually support the Democratic policies. They actually don't like the reproductive freedom bans. They actually don't like all the stuff that the Republicans are offering. But they have these messengers, and it's easy to, if you're losing the culture, which quite frankly, over the past few years, I think Democrats have lost the culture. When you lose the culture, you lose people not even on a specific policy basis, or this moves people in this data point and that data point, -3, -2, whatever all that stuff means. You're losing the bigger picture. And that's what we're seeing with all these organizations, whether we're talking about a Charlie Kirk or, someone less political like a Theo Vaughn or a Joe Rogan or something, that's what you're seeing. And so, what is exactly the answer to that? I don't necessarily have it right now, but it's certainly not avoiding this new medium.
Right.
That
well, the answer,
so many people.
Yeah, well, Brett, part of the answer is never ceding any ground and continuing to explore and advance in territories where you don't exist. And I'm specifically talking about the digital space medium. That's why, so confidently we could get up here every single day going forward and tell you guys that we are not going anywhere. That we're going to double down on truth and this pro-democracy community because we need this now more than ever. All of us do, this entire community, because strength in numbers, folks. And that's why it's just so important to, never give up and never cede any ground. You guys remember when there was that whole, cancel Spotify movement, and a lot of pro-democracy voices had been left the platform for that. And look, to each their own. But in my personal opinion, you never cede ground, because the second that you stop being a voice on one of these platforms, an Instagram, a Spotify, a YouTube, wherever you could show up, you're just giving people territory to now own the space and own the talking points for people that exist and live on those platforms.
By the way, can I be extremely candid about this? I'm unfiltered about this for a second. So like you said, the Joe Rogan and the Spotify, there was this big mission to cancel Spotify, right? What was our perspective during that entire time? By the way, we ended up taking a lot of shit. And what was our perspective the entire time? We said, here's the thing. Should they cancel these shows? I don't think so. Should we compete and try to be bigger and better than all these shows? Absolutely. Let's win that war. Let's fight those battles. And that was what we wanted. It ended up resulting in everybody attack. I'm not even talking about like people on ours, like on all sides, viewed that as a threat, I guess, and then started attacking us and acted like we were doing the opposite. But we were like, we need to get into those spaces. We need to be doing exactly that. And I stand by it. And we still need to be doing exactly that. We still need to be fighting, and we still need to be fighting for ways to spread pro-democracy messages, and not only spreading them, but doing it in a way that connects with folks, that could resonate with folks, that has the right messengers, the right way to speak. Because truthfully, a lot of it, I think personally, I think a lot of it isn't even about the specifics, and I think that's how you get like randomly, you'll get like a Bernie Sanders supporter who now supports Trump. And that's like, how these are two fundamentally different ideas. How could you do that? Because there is a lore to certain ways of messaging things, I think, that can connect with people. And I'm not saying to be like that at all, but I'm saying you have to understand how to penetrate through this media environment, and you have to understand how to be direct with people. And there are ways, there are outlets out there. They just need to stop being ignored. And this community, Midas Touch, all of you play a big role in this. This is the time right now to build. I'll steal from build, baby, build. That's what we got to be doing right now here on the Midas Touch Network. That is our mission, and we're going to continue with it.
Subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't yet.
Yeah, subscribe to. I mean, look, as you said, in the past 90 days, this platform has gotten 1 billion views. I mean, on the YouTube charts, we're often number one, beating like Netflix and the NBA or MLB, like during playoff time. And, to your point, Jordy and Brett, very rarely has, if ever, was anyone like, saying, well, like, I think we need to build more things like that. And look, whether you like this show, you like this network or not, you would still think that, wait a minute, you're doing 1 billion views every 90 days. And there's this massive motivated community out there. Maybe, just maybe, y'all are onto something. And what we're onto something, though, is still that our message. And you've always heard me say this, Midas Mighty. I'm like, I don't think about this show so much as a political show, although we confront political issues all the time, as a show about humanity and decency and treating human beings the way we should all want to be treated, with love, respect, and dignity. And saying that I think that that's an alpha thing to do, is to treat people right, or just a basic human decency thing to do. We got a lot more to discuss. Let's take our last ad break of the show.
The holiday season is here, and it's tough on skin. Cold weather, dry indoor heating, and all those holiday events can leave your skin feeling dull and dehydrated. That's where OneSkin comes in. OneSkin's products are scientifically designed to support your skin at the cellular level, helping it to look and feel healthier and ready for the festivities. Founded by an all-woman team of scientists, OneSkin focuses on skin longevity, not just surface-level improvements. Their secret is the OS01 peptide, a first-of-its-kind formula that works at the cellular level to switch off the cells that make skin vulnerable. It's a game changer for anyone wanting long-term skin health. Along with over 6,300 5-star reviews, OneSkin's moisturizers, cleansers, and sunscreens have already made a big impact. I've been using the OS01 face topical supplement on my face, and I've noticed a real improvement in smoothness and hydration. It feels great knowing that I'm taking care of my skin's health in a lasting way. OneSkin doesn't just treat the symptoms of aging, it targets the root causes. Using innovative R&D, they've measured the effectiveness of age-reversing molecules, showing that the OS01 peptide can reduce senescent cells by up to 50%, improving skin's resilience against aging. In fact, in clinical studies, 87% of users saw diminished wrinkles, and many experienced a stronger skin barrier and improved skin health markers. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company, addressing skin health at the molecular level. Ready to start your face, eye, and body routine? Get 15% off with code MIDAS at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with code MIDAS, MEIDAS. After your purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know we sent you. We only have one body, one skin, and only you can choose to make it better. Age healthy with OneSkin.
I recently gave my father-in-law MD hearing aids, and I saw him over the holidays. He was hearing me so much better. This podcast is sponsored by MD Hearing. MD Hearing is an FDA-registered, rechargeable hearing aid that costs a fraction of what typical hearing aids cost. MD Hearing's Neo model costs over 90% less than clinic hearing aids. The Neo fits inside your ear, so no one will even know that it's there. Plus, MD Hearing just launched the Neo XS, MD Hearing's smallest hearing aid ever. MD Hearing recently cut their price in half. That means you can get high-quality, rechargeable digital hearing aids for only $297 a pair. My father-in-law has been so much more engaged with our conversations now that he has the MD hearing aids. He's way more vocal in a positive way, and it's really brought the family together. He's been using MD hearing aids for a while now, and he swears by them. MD Hearing is just as good as premium quality hearing aids. $297 for a pair of hearing aids this good is crazy. Edward S. calls MD Hearing the best hearing aid I have used at any price. Robert P. in Texas said, "These are the best hearing aids that you can buy. Simple to use, durable, and better than hearing aids that cost 10 times as much." MD Hearing was founded by an ENT surgeon who saw how many of his patients needed hearing aids but couldn't afford them. He made it his mission to develop a quality hearing aid that anyone could afford. MD Hearing has sold over 1.9 million hearing aids, and they offer a 45-day risk-free trial with a 100% money-back guarantee, so you can buy with confidence. Still on the fence about MD Hearing? Well, they were just selected to be the hearing aid supplier for top Medicare Advantage plans, so they're a brand that you can trust. This holiday season, get the hearing you deserve with MD Hearing. Go to shopmdhearing.com and use promo code MIDAS to get a pair of hearing aids for just $297. Plus, they're adding a free extra charging case, a $100 value just for listeners of the Midas Touch podcast. That's shopmdhearing.com and use our promo code MIDAS and get a pair of hearing aids for just $297. Shout out to our pro-democracy sponsors. Brett, OneSkin, your skin looks as good as it's ever looked, my man. And then MD Hearing Aid. So my uncle, my wife's uncle is using it. Our uncle is now using it, and my father-in-law is using them. So MD Hearing, like 5 stars from the Mycelis family. Check them out.
Look, we know that the implications of this election are not theoretical for we the people, or from you who are watching this at home, particularly to marginalized communities and women. That's why our commitment right now is more than ever that we're going to use this platform to do everything we can to resist the fascist encroachment that we can. We approach this clear-eyed, we approach this with solemnity and with an understanding of the serious threats that are out there. And we're going to use this platform to resist, to protect our institutions, to protect our democracy, and to continue to grow this platform generationally the way that Fox did, except they did for bad. We're trying to do it for pro-democracy. And that means there are going to be setbacks. That means there are going to be big setbacks sometimes. But we're not in the business of giving up. We're not in the business of looking back and pointing fingers and whining. We are in the business of moving forward, of being leaders, of respecting this community and the rights and the freedoms of this community, of being very sensitive to the moment, being very sensitive to your fears and your concerns, and being with you each and every step of the way. You are family to us. This community and what we've grown to be together. I'll sometimes, whether it's on a Patreon, I get to see your faces. Oftentimes I don't get to see, all of your faces, but sometimes you'll see me at an airport, or you'll see me at a stadium, or you'll see me getting a cup of coffee at Starbucks or wherever I'm at getting coffee. Although the coffee machine's not working at my Starbucks. How does the coffee machine not work at a Starbucks, by the way? But that's like
should we do a podcast on that?
For like a week that the coffee's not working. I'm like, okay, well,
what do they serve
for a week?
Over a week.
Why are you still going back?
That would seem like priority number one at the coffee shop.
Because I keep showing up to see if the coffee's
fixed. Because now you're committed. You're committed to the bit now. You have to just keep showing up.
Yeah. I end up going to Panera to get the coffee, but I always start at the Starbucks.
I thought you were a tea guy.
I've been coffee for about the last 9 months.
Oh, excuse me.
No, nobody informed us, but that's why I make my coffee at home with trade.
But the point is, as I see you all, I know, I feel, I want to do whatever I can in my power to be helpful and to be a voice of of empowerment, but just whatever I could help, just help, and I see a lot going on right now in social media spaces, though, of words, and you may disagree with me, and it's okay if you disagree with me, but I see words to the effect of, okay, well, if you voted against your interest and now, your relative or loved one gets deported in a bloody deportation, I'm not going to help you. Or, if you are, if you voted against your interest and now you want to protest, we're not going to protest with you. Or we'll call ICE on your family and tell them. My own view is that that's not protected. That's not productive. That's not in my core. It's not in my soul. It's not in my DNA and my fabric to feel that way. I can try to persuade you not to feel that way. But your feelings are your feelings. I'm just going to let you know that for me, even if for some reason you voted to deport your own relatives, which I'll never understand, it is, as a civil rights litigator, which I was before quitting that to become full-time here, I didn't care. I didn't even know if the person was a Democrat or a Republican or whoever, right? Like, I was representing families who lost loved ones, often at the hands of the government, and in different cities and counties across the country. And I was by their side to be helpful against encroachment, against their freedoms, when the government would kill family members or engage in excessive force. And so it has always been my platform and my priority to be a helpful voice. And so I'm going to continue on in that journey, regardless of what the vote was or whatever. Like, we have to be a check on fascism, period, full stop here. And I want to show you some of the leaders who have been stepping up right now. Congressmember Eric Swalwell has been a voice of leadership right now. Here is Congressman Swalwell earlier today when I interviewed him. Here, play this clip. So, Congressmember, not the result that people wanted. I'm telling our audience, though, now is not the time to give up, not the time to give up hope. Now is the time to get to work. You put out a message today to that effect. What's your message to everybody out there?
Yeah, let's get loud and let's get going, because if a young woman in Florida, where a 6-week ban is now the law of the land, can get up today and find her way through, we can too. And if a soldier in a trench in eastern Ukraine who just saw their best ally walk away from them can keep fighting, we can too. And if a high school student who's going to go to school today in a country that's going to arm mass shooters to the teeth and they're still going to get through it, we can too. It doesn't feel good to lose. It sucks. I hate it. I hate what this winner says about our country and the people who make it so great. But we have work to do. We've dealt with this guy before. He's a one-term president coming in. He's in serious cognitive decline. We're not helpless. We are privileged to be among those who can do something. And by the way, there's no time to mourn or grieve for too long, because the next play is going to happen pretty soon when he starts to nominate all of the cabinet officials who will implement Trump's Project 2025. And so we got to be loud. We have to get in front of all of the senators who are going to be voting on this and make our cases to them as to why people like Rick Grinnell and Kash Patel and all these others in the rogues gallery cannot be in charge of our country, why our kids need vaccines, and we're not going to let RFK Jr. as the health secretary take them away. So there's a lot of plays coming down the field. And so we should, be upset, but let's put our helmets on, get back on the field and defend, the yardage between us and Project 2025 becoming the law of the land.
Here's Governor Pritzker of Illinois. Let's play this clip.
I'm thinking a lot today about my mother. For most of my life, I've been involved in public policy and Democratic political campaigns as a volunteer, as a supporter, as a candidate, and that's most especially because of my mother. When I was just a little kid, I was conscripted by her to stuff political flyers into envelopes while my older brother and sister addressed and stamped them. We watched as Sue Pritzker organized political campaigns out of our living room at a time when women weren't even allowed to have credit cards without a male cosigner. I think about how she supported causes for women's rights, for gay rights, for civil rights, back when it must have seemed like the pace of change was heartbreakingly slow. The memory of my mother has helped to give me some understanding that the hope that American women have for our country is not a new manifestation, but an old inheritance. It has been nurtured and cared for over generations, passed down with the kind of persistence that you need to continue putting logs on a fire you may not get to see lit in your lifetime. I know that there are a lot of women out there this week, especially young women, asking themselves if they will ever get to see a female president. And to them, I want to say, I too am tired of having to explain to my daughter and to my son too, that eventually the time will come, but not now. Yet here we are again.
Powerful words. And then he made a post that said, well, I'm surprised by Tuesday's results. I wasn't unprepared. The General Assembly and I have protected Illinoisans from the damage Trump may attempt to cause. We've enshrined reproductive rights, built a path to clean energy future, reaffirmed labor rights, invested in tech and more. And he says, while chaos, retribution, and disarray that radiated from the past Trump White House may be different this time, if it isn't, Illinois remains a place of stability and competent governance. No matter the storm we face, you'll be welcome, safe, and protected here. Those are very powerful words from a Democratic governor letting people know that we're prepared to protect you and fight back if Trump is going to do the retribution that he says he's going to do. Same thing with Gavin Newsom. He goes, California is ready to fight. I just called an emergency special session to help bolster our legal resources and protect our state against any unlawful actions by the incoming Trump administration. Whether it be our fundamental civil rights, reproductive freedom, or climate action, we refuse to turn back the clock and allow our values and laws to be attacked. So I leave everybody with this. That's along the lines of what we're prepared to do here. We were certainly looking forward to the opportunity to report on moving forward, moving beyond these Trump years and the hate and division and the chaos and the retribution, but we weren't unprepared. We're very prepared with how to handle it. We've built an infrastructure that will handle it, and we will be on the front lines each and every single day. We need your help. I certainly understand and feel, as Brett and Jordy said earlier, a desire to just sometimes turn all of this off and look away from all of this. But I'll say this, and as Jordy said, you will, ultimately how you deal with it, we're not going to judge. Deal with this how you're going to deal with it. But I want you to know that you're a part of a community that supports you. We support you. We'll be here with you. And we've built a community to be supportive of each other and to help each other get through difficult and dark times and to ultimately come out ahead. And that's what I look forward to. I look forward to knowing that at the end of this tunnel, there will be light. We will be through this. We will weather this through, together. And we're in this together. And we will be here with you every step of the way. So please, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, go to MidasPlus.com. That helps a lot as well. Go to patreon.com/MidasTouch. We will be holding a live Zoom soon, or a live Zoom meeting there. And again, from the bottom of our hearts, from Brett, Jordy, and myself, we love you. We're grateful for you. We're privileged and honored to be by your side here. and we will see you soon. Thank you all so much. God bless you. God bless our troops. God bless our country. God bless our democracy. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty.
The Midas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.